watershed. And we need to bring the sectors together. Intersectoral action and collaboration. Good policy, eh? Consensus approach, very important. And we wanted to attract partners in funding. So that's what it looks like. Two elected people from Cowichan tribes. Chief is the co-chair. 3 elected people from the CBRD. The chair of the CBRD happens to be the co-chair right now. They together named 4 people at large. They happen to name 2 mayors. Cowichan tribes named one of the mayors. Former cabinet minister, you may know him, great man, former minister of fisheries, former minister of environment. Very proud of his role in revenue as well and in transportation. Tim Kolcheski, Simon Charlie's grandson, this wonderful First Nations up-and-comer, also a member of the board. BC got to name 2 people. We recommended they name 2 people, and they named the 2 people that they recommended. And Lauren Ned is one, and David Slade, a well driller, groundwater guy. And then federal fisheries named one, Ministry of Environment. Federal Ministry of Environment was too busy to name anybody because of peak government, I think. We have special advisors representing a number of sectors. And then we've got a great technical advisors who are technical, but they also represent the interest groups. I better get busy with the time. So their job was to implement that plan, that very comprehensive plan, provide leadership, engagement, and they have no regulatory authority. Their power is suasion. They work on the basis of consensus and cooperation and partners. This intersectoral collaboration. And it's about education, it's about best practices and so on. And there is a commitment to science, best available information. And Mark, the Cowichan are very present, and traditional knowledge is an important aspect. So the key elements of the plan are what you'd expect probably in a plan, right? Conservation, management of supply, water quality, biodiversity, flood management, governance, communications. So after 2 years, I asked the board members what were the successes? What were the important things that had been done? Interestingly, relationships and partnerships was the first thing mentioned by just about everyone. And communications, building on knowledge and understanding, and then some projects, getting some basic foundational knowledge for the watershed. There's quite a bit, but adding to it was viewed as important. And then target setting. I'd like to talk a little bit about target setting. We talked about indicators. I think indicators are great, but I want targets. Over there. So we've got 7 targets. They're not completely fleshed out, but our first target, water quality. We want clean water. People can get their heads around that. Oh, yeah. Do you want dirty water? I don't think so. So it's a good target. Estuarine health, we've had clam beds that have been closed since 1971. Huge clam beds. Very important to the First Nation. And just this great resource, but can't eat them, can't consume them because of pollution. So place where we went, we want to be able to eat the clams by 2020. And that ties together a whole bunch of water quality initiatives in our plan. In that sleep-inducing 89 action plan, you can pull out those water quality things and put them into clean water and the clams. Fish sustainability is about what we can control. We picked steelhead, and he said, we want to be at the carrying capacity for young steelhead. We can't control what happens to them when they go to the ocean. Water conservation, we're going to challenge the communities to match a certain level of domestic water use. One of our communities is pretty good, 256 liters per capita per day. That's well below the Canadian average, and well below the BC average, which is 400 and some. So we're going to challenge communities to meet that target. Watershed IQ, grade 5, field trip of the watershed. Summer flows, we want to maintain a certain level. of flow within the river at 7 CMS. We want to protect riparian habitats. We're developing targets for that. In the future, and one that we're struggling with is public health, and if we could get some help on that from you people, we'd love it, because Margot has been working with a group of brilliant people. They're struggling to develop a public health target. Economic development, sustainable economic development target would be a worthwhile thing, and cultural would also be another very worthwhile target to pursue. So, our success factors. People seem to think that we've been successful, and I'm not sure, but we'll see. If we're still around in 3 years and achieving things, I'll probably be success. Thank you. Because I'm ready. Do I still have 5 minutes? That's perfect. Okay. So one of the greatest things for us was we had a great crisis. And we almost ran out of water. That's serious. And so it was a motivator that was large enough to overcome procrastination. So they did a plan. Now, after the plan was done, it wasn't implemented immediately. So the procrastination set in because we hadn't had another big drought since. But I think if you're looking for a governance model and its success for a plan, if you find one that unites, that motivates, that legitimizes things, and that or has legitimacy, and that reinforces commitment, then that's a good thing. So those are some things that I look at as indicators of success. Champions. We had some great champions. At the time of the crisis, they were there and they stood up and they said, we need to do something about this, and they took leadership. And then when the plan was being implemented, the fellow in the middle, the chair of the CBRD now, very great leader, and the chief of Cowichan tribes at the time the watershed board started, Lydia Whitson, also just a visionary as far as leader goes. Our plan is comprehensive, and that's a very good thing. And the process we're developing was highly inclusive. It wasn't necessarily always harmonious, but it was very inclusive. And it looked at the whole watershed. These champions are great, but there were leaders who kept things alive after that plan was done and moved things forward. We had a woman named Kate Miller and with the CBRD, and a guy named Tom Rutherford, some wonderful people who were just motivated to keep things going and who worked collaboratively to just keep the energy happy. I think we've got a pretty good governance model. And it's because people view it as legitimate. Those people are elected. You can draw everyone to someone who's elected, right? The First Nations people and the people with the local government are elected, so they're accountable. They named people, so you can still draw the line. And then the province named a couple, some elected person up there knew who was being named. And the federal government did as well. So there's accountability. They're inclusive of senior governments. And within the community, they're respected and they're very respectful people. They're accessible. People walk down the street and you see them. And meetings are all open. And we've built in resilience, I think, in that all dimensions are all political dimensions. I think we have all sort of the right and the left covered. We probably don't have a really good reformer, but it's tough. Partnerships and relationships are built, and field trips are very important. I heard people talking about field trips. They really help to build those partnerships. So the intersectoral side of things is first and foremost. Our processes are transparent, inclusive, and consensus. You don't want to have a 6-5 vote and then expect something to move on successfully. What a great idea. Let's vote 6-5 on something and then expect it to be implemented by people right away. Next meeting, a different center there, things can change, but we may get foot dragged. Caring and sharing. Nobody cares, educators, remember this. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. I think you see that in schools with kids. And I think that's the important thing about this watershed board is the caring side of it. And it's about cooperation. It's not about competition. It's about enabling, not threatening. Oh, and if you look in there, you can see a couple mayors and First Nations councillor and just various people at watershed cleanup that they have. Science-based, without cred, you're dead. And so we have very good scientifically based information supporting what we do. Oh, the big, juicy, logical target. So if you're going to have a target, I think it should appeal, first you want to link it to your plan, but it should appeal to people. People should really see the benefits. Like, who would not want that target? Stand up if you don't want to achieve that target and marginalize yourself. Want to engage the public, and I think that we need a public health target because I think they are so powerful. People care about public health. It's a good starting point for other things. Wily veterans and youth better have the mix. Wily veterans know and care, and without them, it's hard to move. But those youth are so infectious and energetic, so great. And we need to, that's something we need to do as engage. And finances and funding, the right amount of money at the right time. If we'd had a lot of money 2.5 years ago, we probably would have wasted it. Now we're organized to spend. We need to get that money. Challenges, those elephants. I mean, those elephants at the beginning, boy, they're a threat to sustainability, aren't they? But really they're caused by not living sustainably. So need to deal with those. Sustaining momentum. There always has to be momentum or people will lose interest. Local powers. We need some local power. And that could be one of two things. Maybe just the power to make recommendations to senior government that they will likely follow. Or maybe it's to have the water licensing power locally so that stupid things don't happen. Because right now, stupid things do happen. And secure, long-term, stable funding would be a really important thing for our group. So, a bunch of trumpeter swans who happen to live in our place in the winter in a circle. A few of them are young, so they're cygnets, so you'd call that a cygnet ring, I suppose. And I'd like to thank you, and forward and up.